Here we go. NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for Week 4 over on DraftKings and FanDuel. Uh, Brian, you shook me there a little bit with the basketball. I don't know what that is.
I got so I have a little miniature hoop here in my office, and every time I need to take a break or step away from the computer, I always shoot a couple baskets. So I got the ball in my hands, nice little stress reliever.
Nice. I can tell it's 3 seconds into the stream. You're already bored. You want to take a break.
No, not even. No, this is a break for me after doing MMA and NFL lineups most of the day. So it's good, man. What's up?
Not too much. Just hanging out. It is fall, so flame me if you want, but I do have the leaves above me to celebrate fall.
I see that now. That's pretty sick. I like it.
Definitely. It turns out it's like actually impossible to find one with a transparent background. So this is the best I can get. But we're not here to talk about fall or basketball or anything like that. We're here to talk about Week 4. If you're new here, I am Moose, host, co-founder, and data guru over at OccupyFantasy.com. At Occupy Fantasy on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok. I might have missed one. I'm not sure. But basically, search for us on the platform. We're there. Alongside Brian, at Brian Jester FF on Twitter is where you can find him, co-founder and CEO of Occupy Fantasy and DFS Pro. What's up, man?
Some moves week 4. We have finally reached the point in the season where we feel confident in the trailing 3 weeks of data, which means our model is at its best. Our underperforming wide receivers are here. Our historical ROIs are now at the point where we start to pour gas on the fire. And after a big week last week, I mean, it's hard not to be excited for this week.
Yeah, it's. I don't remember if it was Discord or Slack or like my girlfriend asking me. I don't remember who asked it about it, but they were like, "What's your most profitable time with NFL?" And I literally said Week 4 is like my easily started of our most profitable, if not our most profitable week. I know Brian last year during our $1 million mission, Week 4 was one of your spike weeks, and I think the year before that, Week 4 was actually another spike week for you as well. So Week 4 is pretty good.
Yeah, please week 4. Week 4 to week 16 is kind of that sweet spot. So I'm excited for it. We got some good games to stack this week. The underperforming wide receiver list is nice. It's not nice because literally the top 3 underperformers are out due to injury.
Yeah.
But the other guys on the list, all but one, project to be less than 5% owned on both FanDuel and DraftKings, which means we get the best part of underperformers is that they're not going to be popular whatsoever.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense because maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like air yard data, at least contextualized, is a lot harder to get a hold of. Maybe I could be completely wrong.
No, for sure.
But yeah, so I feel like air yard data and some other data we use to come up with is not very. It's very hard to find publicly for free. There's some sites that offer it that can be behind a paywall and stuff like that. But it's great. I love it, and our underperforming wide receivers do very well with it. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. Now, Brian, one of the questions we had actually about underperforming wide receivers is, would you just have a custom rule if you're building, whether it's 20, 150, or one lineup? Would you just always have a underperforming wide receiver in every lineup?
I mean, there's definitely some weeks, right, where we get like 8 or 10 guys and we're like, wow, we love all these guys. Yeah, let's get at least one into every lineup. This week, they're not as exciting. Plus, there are only 6 names, I think, that qualify for the main slate. So I think it's a little thinner to try to jam them at least one into every single lineup. So for me personally, I'm just trying to get X amount of exposure to each one.
Mm-hmm.
That generally means they'll be in most of our lineups, most of my lineups at least. So yeah, this week in particular, I don't think you have to, but most weeks we will find that to be the case. The other nice thing about underperforming receivers, most you mentioned, air yard data is tough to find, and it's really just like a human bias type thing where people they can't click on a guy's name if he hasn't scored a touchdown yet this year, right?
Yeah.
Like Devontae Parker tops the list, right? Nothing about him screams a good play this week, right? No one wants to play the guy who hasn't scored more than 10 fantasy points in a game or whatever. So I think that's the other reason. Even if they do find the data, they can't trust it.
Yeah, like just even from like you said, from a human's perspective, like it's just like I know we preach hashtag bad plays only here, but sometimes it comes when you look at the box score and you're like, man, this guy actually is really bad. But that's only what you see on the box score.
Yeah.
Now, if the box score shows he's good, he has some good things, and he actually is really bad, then yes, we're absolutely jamming him in there. But
Yes.
no. So we got a question here from Stefan Diggs, who probably should be practicing for tomorrow. Says, do you think Christian Kirk is a good pick?
Stephon Diggs, by the way, on the underperforming receivers list. So shout out to him. Yeah, Christian Kirk, spelled with a C, is I think a pretty good play tomorrow. We like that game stack a lot. It's written up in the plug, and Christian Kirk has been getting the most consistent playing time outside of DeAndre Hopkins. And yeah, we like him this week. So again, I think I'd probably only play him in game stacks, but outside of game stacks, I think we have underperformers, other guys we like. So it just depends on where he fits in your lineup.
Yeah. Speaking of game stacks, I wanted to ask you, Brian, but actually before that, so really quick, if you all are here and you have questions, go ahead and ask. We're here till about 2:30 or so keep the questions coming. But Brian, I wanted to ask you, we have some game stacks written up in the Daily Plug that you can check out at occupyfantasy.com. But one stack that popped up for me that might be a bad plays only was Atlanta. And running back with, you can actually have the actual Curtis Samuel piece, but am I playing bad plays only there? Or, like, could you see an Atlanta stack getting there this week?
So here's the thing, right? So I did the Roto Grinders podcast yesterday, and my co-host Chris on there, he's on the same page as you, Moose, because he kept saying, I really like this under the radar stack, and he was talking about that game, and we kept talking about plays from that game. So I agree. I think there are a lot of good plays from that game. It's just that it feels to me, and I don't have concrete data for this, but like every time we find like an under the radar stack and the total's like 45 and it's two bad teams, like the Giants game last week, we were like, this is a sneaky game, and it's sneaky for a reason, right? Because it takes a lot for it to get there.
Yeah.
So I mean, the fact that there are a lot of decent plays in that game, I think makes sense. Will I play it? Probably not, but I see the rationale there.
I think what my plan is going to be is I think I might use that game stack in a single entry lineup. Just for, like, hear me out. I don't know if this is dumb, but I feel like it's too risky for 150 max to have 30% of my allocation or whatever on this game. I'd rather have it on a couple single entry lineups.
That makes sense, and if for people who don't 150 max, that doesn't make a ton of sense, right? But like, yeah. we have 150 lineups, but we don't want to waste any, right?
Yeah.
So you only use 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 quarterbacks, and you don't want to waste any of your precious lineups. So I agree with him. I actually follow that logic, Moose.
Nice. What's up, Nick? He says, "What's poppin', boys?" And Stephon Diggs. What's your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor as a GPP play on FanDuel?
What's up, Nick? Bro, I love it. I actually love it this week. Taylor is one of my favorite plays of the entire week. And if you look at the model, I'm just pulling it up on my end here. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him. He's kind of in that middle tier range. And Taylor, 6,300 on DraftKings, 6,600 on FanDuel. We got him projected for just 4% on DraftKings, projected ownership, 12% on FanDuel. And when I ran my first couple runs this morning building 150, he was actually my most exposed player. Now, to me, this is a trust the model type play because, Taylor hasn't done much. He's not getting as much work as we thought he would. He lost Quentin Nelson. So, like, on the surface, it doesn't seem that great, but the model's picking it up, the builder's picking it up. And I think for tournaments, generally we don't like lower-owned guys, but Taylor's a guy that could get a ton of volume, so I'm on board with it.
Yeah, it seems like there's a handful of running backs that fit that exact criteria you were just talking about where, they're not super high-owned, but they're pretty cheap, and they could be one of those running backs you fit in your lineup. So, Brian, what do you think about the running back situation outside of Taylor? But it seems like there's a lot that are kind of grouped together. So how are you handling running backs this week?
I mean, it seems to be the theme of 2021, right? We're looking to play those mid-range guys. We're not jamming CMC and all like we have been in the past. It just feels like every week there are 5 to 8 guys in that like 5,500 to 7K range that play in the passing game, that get goal line work, that allow you to pay up at games in your game stacks. And to me, we got Najee Harris. He's bumped up a bit this week finally, but like Saquon, Chuba Hubbard, Dave Montgomery, Chris Carson, Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, Mike Davis, Chase Edmonds, like all these guys. It just feels to me like it's another one of those weeks. So JT fits the mold if that's the that's the line of construction that we're going with.
Yeah, you pretty much hit that on the head there. Hopefully Chuba gets more than like 3 carries or whatever he had the time we all rostered him in Showdown.
Yeah, please.
Dig says, "What's your thoughts on Brandon Cooks?"
I mean, if they're going to keep giving him 50% of the targets and like 80% of the air yards, we got to keep playing him every week. This is what it comes down to. His usage is otherworldly. And I know a lot of people like the Buffalo side in that game, as they should. They're 17-point favorites. So if you decide to play Josh Allen, then Brandon Cooks is the natural run back on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, he's ranked, it looks like 10th or so in our model on wide receivers across every wide receiver on the main slate. Only projected to be 4% on both sites. I think that's a perfect run back if you're game stacking that game.
I mean, I understand, right? They're 17-point underdogs, but they're going to be throwing the entire game. And
Yeah.
when this guy's getting a majority of the targets, the 4% ownership just doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, and also, like you talk about, we saw it, what was it, week 1 or week 2, when Tampa Bay, so many people were doing 3-0 Tampa Bay stacks when they were a big favorite. By adding Cooks, that's going to get you so much different that even if you have the same 3 people at only 4%, I guarantee you'll probably be 0.1% of people will have that stack.
As crazy as that sounds, but yeah, you're 100% right. We see it especially on the big favorite game stacks.
Mm-hmm.
10 points or higher. We really see people leaving out the other side of that game. But again, the theory here is that, if that 3-man stack is going to pop off and they're not running the ball the entire second half, the other team has to score some, right? And ideally, that scoring goes through one player, and Brandon Cooks just, fits that mold to a T.
Definitely. Dabba says, what's your thoughts on Kamara for a GPP? I'm on board with the mid-price running backs, but Kamara seems to have a great matchup on paper this week.
Yeah, so the Saints are actually running. We said this about the Bengals. The Bengals came out and passed like every single play. But the Saints are running at an extremely high rate, like in all game situations. And Kamara's benefiting from that with Latavius not there anymore, getting work in the passing game. Yeah, I like Kamara a lot, and I think he's in that Derrick Henry range for me. I know Derrick Henry has the much better matchup and team total and game script and whatever, but like Kamara's right there for me.
Yeah, and as you speak of Kamara, I actually captain him in my Madden stream tournament that's going on right now. So
Was you one of those 200 people that are still watching the DraftKings streams? I have no idea why they're doing those.
I don't know. There was some overlay, so I said, why not? Let's see how this is. And I don't even know how I can watch the game, so I'm just hoping.
Dude, they're still streaming them on YouTube, and it blows my mind that like you could watch real football or any other sport, and people were like, there was people we were talking about in our staff chat the other day, like people were yelling at the game for like not running the ball more. It's like, guys, you gotta like evaluate your life for a second here.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some like a really hold on really quick. I know we gotta take a quick detour, but if the is the Madden stream up for the next contest? Because they have like some stupid. They have like a 3-3-3 or a 5-5-5 for it, and I just want to see really quick if that's like
hundreds of dollars, $333 entry fee.
Yes.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
Real money?
Yeah, real money. All right, let's see. Yeah, so like they literally have granted it's a 3-man contest, but I think one of it's already filled. It's $1,060 for a winner take all Madden stream contest.
What the fuck? I am just like blown away that this is a thing. I'm looking at it right now. Madden.
They have the showdown and then they have the classic.
Dude, what is going on? People are playing. Whatever, man. I mean, go get your overlay moves.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's see. We got some questions in here. What's up, Ken? He says, "What do you think about Derrick Henry in GPPs?"
That should tell you all you need to know. Like that reaction. He's actually not as popular as I thought he'd be.
Mm-hmm.
All things aside, we have him projected. I guess his price is pretty crazy, right? 10-2 on FanDuel, 8,800 DraftKings, less than 20% on both sites. I'll try to get close to that, I think, just because his usage in the passing game now is kind of crazy. They're missing all the receivers. I mean, I really like the Jets in this game, but that doesn't mean anything anymore, right? Because we saw Henry in 2 types of game scripts already, and he smashed in 2 types. So,
yeah.
I think you try to get close. I find it really hard to pay up for him if you're playing one lineup, but and I think this can go both ways, right? The fact that he's not the number 1 running back on our model as the highest priced running back should tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Moose, Henry's generally lower, especially last year. But the model's picking up on his receiving game usage, and he's higher than he ever really is ever ranked, right? He never really gets to the top 5, or he wasn't last year, and we see that this year. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there.
Yeah, maybe I have a little bit more optimistic perspective on him. I feel like he's going to get his usage is just going to absolutely crush with the 2 receivers out. I think he's a good play. He is expensive, but again, if you're playing like a lower price game stack, it's easy to fit him in.
Oh, yeah, like you play the Darnold side of things, or Jalen Hurts side of things. Yeah, you can definitely fit him in.
Definitely. Who will get more volume, Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen?
Jefferson will get all the volume, and Adam Thielen will never stop scoring touchdowns somehow.
Thanks for the compliment, Aaron. He says, I'm loving the lineup builder, Brian. That's awesome. Thank you, Aaron.
OccupyFantasy.com/lineup builder is where you can access it and learn more. Thank you, Aaron. Your check is in the mail for that sponsored post. Thank you.
The Prince says, when picking between FanDuel and DraftKings, we select each OF selection. I'm not sure what you mean there. If you could clarify.
Yeah, if you want to clarify, if you want to clarify the Prince, we'll gladly answer the question.
Yeah, and it seems like a handful of people are cheering about my hardcore esports. .bet says Sermon projected for 1% owned against the Seattle team that can't stop the run. Do you have any exposure to him this week, especially if Mitchell's out?
Great question. So Eli Mitchell, we're not 100% sure if he's going to be out or not. That's a pain tolerance thing. He seems more likely to play this week than he was last week. It's tough. I mean, 1% is hard to argue. It's just that I don't think they trust him just by reading what they say and how they use him. And if this game gets out of control at all, right, if they get down at some point, I mean, they were using Juszczyk, the fullback, as the third down running back. So, it's really, really tough. I understand the price point, $5K. You know what? I don't hate it. I'll say this. I don't hate it because you can get like 5 or 10% and be way over the field. So, if you're playing 2150, I don't mind it. I just think it goes wrong really quickly a lot of ways.
But you said, if he is 1%, and I think we talked about this on the $1 Million Mission streams before. I don't know if we talked about it recently, but actually I think we talked about it literally on Tuesday, is sometimes it doesn't really make sense to play 1% of a guy or 1/4% of a guy if you're doing 20 or 150 maxing. But if you can get 5% and get 5 times leverage, I think, Brian, that's what your baseline is. You don't want to have less than 5% of a person in your player pool. Yep. I can see something like that where if it's a 1% player, you want to take a shot, max him at 5%, and get 5 times leverage on the field. I don't hate that at all.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, that's a good point, Moose.
Definitely. Over under 18.5 receiving yards for Derrick Henry this week.
Yeah, you gotta like that, right? With all those receivers out and his increased usage. Let me see. What has he done so far this year as far as receiving numbers go? Game logs, 19, 55, 31. That's a terrible line, it seems like. So yeah, I would hammer that .bets.
Yeah, if that's on Underdog or a sportsbook, please let me know where that is .bet so I can hammer that as soon as we get off the show.
Yes.
By the time I get there, it'll be like 37.
I know. And .bets and his Steam crew will hammer that.
Definitely. So, really quick, let's take a look at. I can even bring up the quarterback model. I'm feeling generous. We'll bring up the quarterback model for you all. And we like to look at team total moves. And so I have it up here. Going by the worst team total moves, there's 4 teams that have a team total drop of 1 point or more. Tennessee, New Orleans, Indy, and Denver. Brian, what do you make of that? Not necessarily from a quarterback side, but from I guess none of these teams. I don't think we're stacking any of these teams. They all seem like pretty trash plays.
I would just say, Moose, I know as 2 guys who are invested in a big survivor pool who are not selecting Tennessee this week, I'm very overjoyed by all this line movement in favor of the Jets. Whether or not they can capitalize on it, I don't know. But and we've got to think. Right, let's think here.
Okay. Tennessee.
We're getting off course here very quickly, but Tennessee got just like railroaded week 1, just destroyed. They make a miraculous comeback against Seattle in week 2. They beat a very banged up, also very bad Indy team in week 3. And now they go on the road against a team that no one cares to play in the Jets. I think that the line is rightfully moving in the Jets' favor. Let's just get some variance moves and hope that we can get a 20% knockout of the field or whatever they're going to be in Survivor. Either way, for DFS, it does cause you to pause a bit when you see some of these negative team total moves. Mm-hmm. Whereas on the flip side, we see something like Dak and Darnold moves, which is like it's music to our ears when we consider that a top game stack.
Yeah, I mean, Dak has a plus 1.25 team total move, which anything above 1 is fantastic. It's what we used to use for our badges if y'all are that old with us. Yeah, so I loved that Dallas Carolina game. I think that's probably going to be one of my game stacks. I haven't started my lineups yet, but Brian, I think that's probably one of the better game stacks this week.
The game total has increased 2 points, and we got this question on TikTok. Actually, shout out TikTok, asking about Dak Prescott playing against Carolina's tough defense, and I think you have to think about it this way. This looks like a three-folded answer. Carolina, one, we don't care about defensive matchup that much, just in general, right? There's so much variance. It's mostly based on their opposing offenses. Carolina has played Houston, the New York Jets, and the New Orleans Saints, run-heavy team. So their numbers are automatically going to be skewed because of the offenses they faced. Mm-hmm. Third, we trust the betting markets over everything. If the betting market's telling that this game's going to score 2 more points than they already initially anticipated, we should be lining up to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, people that are betting a lot more money than what I think goes into DFS. So, yeah. Ken says, who are some cheaper guys that benefit from teams with injuries like the Giants, Steelers, and Titans?
Great question. So the Giants, they have Sterling Shepard out. They have Darius Slayton out. Kadarius Toney, I think he ran a route on 66% of the dropbacks last week, or played 66% of the snaps. Whatever it was his most extensive usage of the year, their first-round rookie. And so I think Kadarius Toney gets a pretty big bump. Evan Ingram also gets a bump. He's pretty cheap as their tight end. He'll be the de facto number 2 in the passing game behind Kenny Galladay. So I think Kadarius Toney if you're playing a bunch of lineups. Pittsburgh, so Deontay Johnson's back. Juju's a little bit banged up, but he's going to play. Chase Claypool just got rolled out before we went live. So James Washington will be the number 3, but they'll probably just throw it to Najee Harris 20 times again. So I don't know if anyone really benefits from that one. And then Tennessee, A.J. Brown's out. Julio Jones is out. So to me, Chester Rogers is the number 1 slot guy. He's been starting since week 1. He'll get a decent amount of action. But Nick Westbrook-Akina is super intriguing because not only did he step in after A.J. Brown went down last week and played a ton, Tannehill threw to him a decent amount for a guy that none of us have ever even heard of before. And if you listen to the Friday interviews with Tannehill, he brought up Westbrook-Akina unprompted. They were talking about the injuries and stuff, and he's like, yeah, well, he's a guy we have confidence in. I like throwing to him, whatever. So Westbrook-Akina is a guy that, again, not a household name, and even if, because people are going to be, they're going to want to play Derrick Henry. They're not interested in playing the Titans passing game. Mm-hmm. So Westbrook-Akina, I think, a guy is the biggest beneficiary and a guy that no one really wants to play.
Yeah, I know. You mentioned him as a top value play on the TikTok. So, yeah, that's all you need to know about it. If it makes a TikTok, then it's a good play.
If it makes the TikTok, it's a good play. That is absolutely true. Although I will say, we got some comments on the TikTok. It was like 5 best values of the week or whatever. And one guy was like, why don't you actually try picking good plays? I was like, buddy, you have not been around Occupy Fantasy long enough to think we pick good plays here.
Yes. Any interest in the Broncos wide receiver this week, in particular Tim Patrick or Sutton on FanDuel?
Yeah, we actually answered that in the plug. So if you check out the plug, we got our favorite Broncos receiver in there.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Edmonds and Henderson?
Edmonds also answered in the plug. We like him a lot this week. Henderson is a guy that I think it's kind of tough because it's a pain tolerance thing with his rib. He should be back. To me, I'm more interested in playing that passing game, especially in this, because there's a chance now he splits the workload with Sonny Michel a little bit, whether it's because of injury or because what Sonny Michel looked like in his absence. So I think it's a little messy. We only want to play guys in clear scenarios. So I think Edmonds makes more sense than Henderson from that standpoint.
Okay, makes sense. Let's see here. And then, so just sorting by OF Index here, Brian, in the quarterback model, is there any one of these top, let's say, 5 or so that you think the model's wrong, that like you're kind of staying away from? I'm not playing them. I'm guessing for me it would be Josh Allen. I don't know if that's what your pick would be.
I mean, I get it for Allen, right? Like, he has 4 or 5 touchdown upside, so I get it. But I'm not interested in stacking that game, so I'm not playing him in tournaments. Wentz, I'm not touching. The model sees something that we definitely don't see there, so I'm curious to see what that's about. Justin Fields should bounce back this week, so I understand that one a little more. It's a much easier defense. So to me, the biggest thing that stands out is we got Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, 2 stud quarterbacks and big game totals in the top 3. Yeah. Those are the guys I'm really excited about playing.
Yeah, I'm not dropping. Like, if you give me the opportunity to play Mahomes or Fields, it's like, all right, I'm playing Mahomes literally every time.
Yes, well, 100%. Yeah, for tournaments for sure.
Definitely. Dot says for 3-1 game stacks, are we forcing the opposing wide receiver on the slate? I noticed the Millie Maker winner had Bills and then ran it back with Thomas as the run back last week. I assume it's week to week difference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it definitely depends on the game stacks you're doing, right? So let's think about it here. So Dallas, Carolina, we're not thrilled about playing any of the tight ends there, right? Maybe you want to force a receiver, but again, the running backs, right? You could easily see Dallas passing this game and Chuba Hubbard getting most of the work as a running back, or vice versa, running back with Zeke. The Chiefs game, right? Obviously, Kelsey's in play. Both running backs are slightly in play. Now you look at some of the other games we talk about. Yeah, I don't think it's a requirement. In fact, when I make 150, I don't check that box. I do a lot of custom rules anyways. And I'm adding running backs, tight ends as my running backs. So yeah, I wouldn't get too locked into a box there, thinking that you absolutely need a receiver. The only thing I would say is you probably want 2 receivers overall in your game stack, usually 3. The only kind of limitation I'll put on is I generally don't want multiple running backs or a running back and a tight end in the game stack.
Yeah, so I think it kind of like what you're trying to say is just varies, not just week to week, but team by team. So
For sure, absolutely.
yeah, definitely. Cool. So we're here for 3 more minutes. Brian, is there any last lingering thoughts you want to talk about or anything that we missed?
I don't think so. I think if you've been saving your bankroll a little bit, now's the week to bump it up some. It looks like a good slate. There are tons of satellites out there. Start grinding them. I know I'm just like ratcheting up my live final allocation this week. We'll see how that goes. But again, play on Yahoo too.
Yeah.
If you have any sort of bankroll, right, their major GPP is not going to fill. It hasn't filled through 3 weeks so far. It's not going to fill tomorrow. They're already adding $250,000 in overlay for that contest. Like it's 37,500 entries. They made it so it's like 55,000 entry prize pool, and it's not even going to reach the 37,000. So you get like double overlay, and the payouts are flat. It's basically ends up being like a double, triple up with way more upside. So, and that's not even counting like that's not even counting the other stuff, the other overlay contests on that site. So go play Yahoo.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you, Discord, for pulling up a pop-up that just says, like, hey, we're changing your setting. So thank you, Discord. I have to move that out. I don't know why Discord is, like, actually the worst.
Yeah, why? 27 minutes into the call, why?
Yeah, I don't know. Jake says, would you say running back over wide receiver and flex for a 0.5 PPR league?
Yeah, if to break a tie, probably. Yeah, it depends on the guys, obviously, but like if 2 guys are close between you, I'd probably lean towards the running back.
Okay. Cool. Let's see here. Any last other questions? Yes, if you have any last lingering questions, definitely go ahead and ask. I will say, Brian, that we are delighted that Cincinnati won on Thursday, so we can, for the most part, relax about our DraftKings survivor. So that is great. So me, DC, I think there was a couple other people in our Discord that had Cincinnati for survivor. Man, we were all sweating it there. That was great. And,
yeah. Yes.
And with that, I will say, if you're not in our Discord and you're a member, definitely go ahead and check that out. occupyfantasy.com/discord, where you can find out information about that. So you can be a member, or you can go ahead and join our YouTube membership program, get access to our Discord that way. A fantastic resource. I definitely advise anyone to be a part of it. Thomas says, are you supposed to treat satellites like low or high risk builds?
Great question, Thomas. We get this question pretty decently often. It depends on the payout structure, right? If only one person out of 70 gets paid, then you have to treat it like a high risk because you have to beat 98% of the field or whatever. Mm-hmm. If it's like FanDuel overlay type contest, you can make it a little more low risk style. So it depends on how many people get paid and how many entrants are in the contest. Just try to compare it to the payout style of a cash style contest, right? Do the top 20% get paid? Then it's high risk. If it's closer to 40-50%, then it's more of a low risk. So look at that, and that'll dictate how you build your lineup.
Yep, definitely. Jordan says, what's your thoughts on this Nick Westbrook? I think he said pretty good play, good value play.
Yep.
And
check it out. We talked about that in detail earlier, Jordan. So if you just rewind back or watch the show from the start, you'll hear our thoughts on him.
Dot says, who's the player that goes off that will be lower than 5% owned?
Fortunately, five of our six underperforming receivers are less than 5%. So I will say Devontae Parker.
Okay, I can see that. Let me pull up here on my end. Let's see, less than 5% on both sites. Let's see. I'm gonna go off the rails here, and I'm gonna say the Tim Patrick.
Tim Patrick, a
Yeah,
plug play, by the way. I like it.
definitely. So, all right, y'all. It's 2:30. That means we're gonna get up out of here. I appreciate everyone that is here. But before that, we're actually gonna answer this last question. Says, is it viable to play Deontay and Naja in a GPP despite their low team total?
Yeah, it's not great. I generally limit myself when I'm building 150 to max one player per team, unless like the two dudes just dominate opportunities, or one or both of them are underpriced. Then I'll allow it. I don't think Deontay and Najee really fit that bill. They do dominate opportunity, but neither one is like exceptionally cheap. So I would probably avoid doing it.
Cool. And then actual last question here. No worry, the Jets' key to stop the run with no starting receivers and Henry gets shut down.
Yeah, I don't know what
Um,
you mean, Jordan, but we talked about that already. So if it's literally the same answers before. If you
yeah,
rewind back and then
yeah,
listen to it.
yeah. So, all right, so that'll do it for today's show. Again, I am Moose. He is Brian. We're from OccupyFantasy.com. Until next time, have a good one.